All right, so big news. The Federal Reserve cut rates, okay? And they cut rates by half of a point. Now, here's what that means because, your average person, you may be aware, and I may be aware, but there's a lot of people out here that aren't aware. And if you are someone who says, you know what, Brian, in reality, I don't really know what that means as far as in my day to day. In this video, we're going to break it down very briefly what the Fed rate cut means for you, your family, your money, and for America. Now, before we get into that, I'm going to share this clip where they were speaking about it on the news recently and giving their synopsis on what a federal rate cut means for America. And as we get into the video, do me a favor. Thank you for being here. Hit that like button. And if you aren't subscribed, hit the subscription, turn on the notification bell. So as I keep pumping out these videos, you'll be updated and notified when another one does come out. Again, appreciate you watching. Let's check this video out and see what they had to say about everything going on.
Terry, we now know that the Federal Reserve is cutting interest rates by half of a percentage point, a 50 basis point rate cut. That is bigger than it had been originally expected. On the bigger side of things, when you think about this move from the Fed, this is an historic move, the first rate cut in 4 years from the Federal Reserve. And now it is sending a very clear signal that it is taking this fight seriously, that it wants to preserve the jobs market. In its statement, it makes that clear that it is making a half-point rate cut to try to preserve the jobs market with inflation now closer to its target. So again, Terry, a lot of division going into this. The Fed went bigger. It went with that half-point rate cut.
Right. Got it. Thank you, Elizabeth. They went bigger, Alexis. And so first, why? Why did they go bigger, and what's it going to mean?
There were two camps of thought here. I mean, they got a lot of criticism, Terry, a few years ago when they started raising interest rates. Many thought they were too late to react to what was happening during the pandemic, and that's why inflation really got away from them when we saw inflation hit a 40-year high. So there were some who said, look, you need this aggressive half-point cut now to help out the job market, which has been slowing down, and to prevent the economy from maybe moving in the opposite direction, slowing down so much that we would possibly tip into a recession maybe later next year. Others are saying a half point is overkill, that it could actually, believe it or not, fan inflation again because it might be a stimulant for the economy. There are some who thought a quarter-point cut was the way to go. If you look at the number here on the screen, a live number of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, rallying now more than 260 points. Clearly, Wall Street believes that the Fed did the right thing and that it was time for this half-point aggressive interest rate cut.
All right. So, Elizabeth, this is Wall Street likes it. We were just looking at the stock market going up. What does it mean for consumers, though?
You know, what this means, Terry, is that we are clearly on this trajectory. The Fed is very seriously now embarking on this path of lower interest rates. I do want to point something out to you, Terry, from the statement from the Federal Reserve, which was just released, that there was one governor of the Fed that dissented. What that means is they didn't agree with this decision. They said instead they would have preferred that smaller rate cut, but otherwise all of the members of the Federal Reserve did vote in favor of this. And what that shows, there was a pretty big consensus around a half-point cut. And that shows that the Federal Reserve, as it kind of met over the last 2 days, as it looked at the economy, looked at the data that it has right now, it decided that this was the move that will ultimately result.
The fact of the matter is they're full of it. Here's the reality of it. They did that, A, because the economy is not doing as well as Kamala Harris and Joe Biden would want us to believe, especially with the recent jobs reports that have been coming out showing that they overinflated jobs by almost 1 million. I'm not sure if you heard that, by 1 million. And so while they're running around touting 16 million new jobs, majority of those, I believe around 60%, is what are called bounce back jobs, where during COVID, a lot of people were forced to stay home because of the shutdowns. So of course, when we opened back up, it was during Biden's administration. So those bounce back jobs, they're actually counting those in their jobs report. That's why you hear all these things that they saying, oh, the economy's great, jobs market, and you're looking around saying, damn, man, it seems like all the people around the area where I'm living at are working 2 and 3 not very well paying jobs. Prices are still way too high. Things are super tight. Young people still can't get their own apartment or afford rent, but yet they're constantly telling me, gaslighting me, saying how great things are and how it's not as bad as I believe. And then look at the stock market. Now, the funny thing about this whole, when they love to say stock market, if you remember during Donald Trump's term, whenever the stock market was brought up, they would say, oh, That's just for millionaires and billionaires, Donald Trump's buddies. But really pay attention to which one of the candidates has billionaires running all around them. As a matter of fact, Kamala Harris is getting ready to do a live stream with Oprah. I mean, Elon Musk, who was a hard leftist that saw the direction of the country, that took a lot of flack when he said, you know what, I'm not committed to either party. I'm voting for policy. It's just like African Americans who historically have voted at about a 93% clip for Democrats, finally are opening their eyes up, at least a nice chunk of them, 20, 30%. There's still a whole bunch of them that the TDS just runs way too rampant. But even they're starting to say, you know what, man, why are we the only people tethered to a party that continuously poops on our head and tells us it's raining, that we see flood the neighborhoods with illegal immigrants, giving them everything in the world that African Americans have been asking for I don't know how long. Those days of asking are over. People are waking up. We live in America. This is literally the land of opportunity. Where else can a guy from Detroit, born and raised in Detroit, go off to college, play ball, drop out of college, and then jump into the world and fall into sales, and within 20 years, not only has he owned his own companies, employ people, travel around the country, different parts of the world, get a chance to speak, put his kids through college, have a good marriage and a good life, that's only in America. So the fact of the matter is that the American dream had turned into the American nightmare under Biden and Kamala Harris. So this rate cut is a last-ditch opportunity for the Harris campaign to look good, kind of like the Taylor Swift endorsement that they thought was going to just knock the doors off. And what it actually did is made almost 3 times as many people that follow Taylor Swift more likely to vote for Trump than Harris, which was great to see. Not no bias. It just was good to see that people aren't being influenced by celebrities who shouldn't be talking to anybody about how they should vote, especially with this P. Diddy crap. And you remember back in 2008, Puff Daddy was right there with Hillary Clinton and doing the rock the vote for Obama. And that was the crew. Not saying anything either way, but that was the crew. So let me get back to it. What caused the inflation, because they don't want to admit that we are already in a recession, but they like to say, oh no, if things keep going the way they are, we'll go into one. The fact that the Fed acted this aggressively, they know what's on the menu. But let's get into what actually it means for you as a consumer, or what the rate cut does as a whole. Number one, it lowers borrowing costs. I'll pull it up so I can get out of the way. It lowers borrowing costs for mortgages. If you have an adjustable rate mortgage or are looking to finance your home, a rate cut can lower your monthly mortgage payment by reducing the interest rate. Next, our credit cards and any loans you may have. Interest rates on credit cards, auto loans, personal loans often decrease, making it cheaper to borrow money. Lower savings interest. Interest earned on your savings accounts, your CDs, which are certificates of deposits, other interest-bearing accounts typically drops. This means you'll earn less interest on your savings. Okay, so that's not necessarily a positive thing for you, not at all. Encouragement to spend and invest. Lower interest rates encourage spending and investing rather than saving, which stimulates economic growth. Consumers are more likely to take out loans for major purchases like homes and cars when rates are lower. Facts. That's a fact. Stock market and investment. Lower rates tend to boost the stock market as investors seek higher returns. If you have investments in stocks or mutual funds, you may see positive growth in your portfolio. And it also is a boost for business. Lower interest rate make it cheaper for businesses to borrow money, which can lead to expansion and job creation. This may indirectly benefit workers through better job opportunities. So if you're somebody that has a vehicle loan, has loans out there, period, it could be beneficial. If you think about refinancing your home, it's beneficial. If you think about buying a home, it's beneficial. Okay. Now, here's the kicker. Even though that they have done this rate cut, and really think about what all the positive things that the media is saying about this cut, and think about what Donald Trump has been saying he wants to do. He wants to cut taxes. When you cut taxes for corporation, it frees up money. When those tax breaks come, yes, it frees up a lot of money for my company to be able to do other things that we want to do. When taxes increase and there's more money that's going out to be able to handle that, guess what? There's less money that you could take and you can divert and divest into other things, whether it be hiring, whether it be expansions, all types of different stuff. So the rate cut is good, but we have to be cautious because a rate cut this big actually could lead us into a recession in the future. And sometimes I wonder, do they already see the light at the end of the tunnel of the train? And that train that's coming is Donald Trump. And they're doing everything they can to set it up where if he's going to be in office, they're going to make it as miserable as possible for him. And if they're doing that for him, guess what that means? We're going to be the ones to bear the brunt of it. So even though the rates are cut, be very, very mindful and understand that, you know, this is just something to keep the ship from sinking. Bottom line, that's what it is. So, and looking at the money that's being spent out there that the Harris administration and Joe Biden are still wanting to spend is crazy. And right now, you may not, want to believe this, but it's true. Do you know that there's a vote going on in Congress right now as to whether non-citizens should be allowed to vote in our elections? And not one Democrat voted for us to protect election integrity. Not one. So wherever city you live in, go check. It's public record. Go check the voting of your congressional member on non-citizens being unable to vote, and you'll be shocked. So when people talk about protecting democracy and yada, 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 how can you say you're here to protect democracy, but you want people who have never paid taxes, who haven't been here long at all, to have a say in who runs our country? Those of us who were born, bred, bled, built, lived, grown our families here. But yet you want the input of folks who don't even understand what it is to be an American. And that's a shame in itself. So keep that in mind as early voting is going on, as November 5th rolls around. Keep that in mind. Yeah, joy and vibes is cool, but how long does joy and vibes last when a person's stomach is growling, or their lights are cut off, or their baby is crying because they don't have enough food? How much joy and how much joy and happiness and laughter is there going to be? And anybody that wants to spend more time focusing on joy and happiness rather than expressing a plan, you got to watch that person. If every time I ask you, hey, how are we going to take care of this? And you say, well, you know what? The sky is blue today. Hey, how are we going to take care of this? The way that I grew up as a child. Hey, how are we going to take care of this? Socrates once said, what? I'm asking you a direct question. And since you know that this question is coming and is always going to come, the fact that you have not taken any time to at least create a coherent answer that can make some sense, the fact that you haven't done that lets me know it's not even a priority of yours. You don't give a damn about anybody knowing what your plan is. You just hope that the media plays coverage long enough for those that are asleep, or should I say for those that are woke, because woke is really the new sleep. For those that are woke to fill up these doggone early voting ballots. For those who have not heard all of the news that is coming out, please be on the lookout for the next video, because the bombshell information that just came from the head of the border, as far as the cover up that Kamala, as the borders did, as far as on the T word being anytime somebody does something nasty to someone, just think about the T word, and it rhymes with pessimist. What she did to cover up the T word incident at the border. Oh my God. But as far as the Fed, yes, they cut the rates. It's beneficial for you as far as with interest rates on your mortgage, refinances. It's a negative for you as far as on your interest gained being lower, as far as on your savings accounts and whatnot. It does, improve the stock market, increases confidence, freeing up capital for more people to be able to invest. It can boost businesses if they need to generate, borrow money and whatnot. But as far as for the everyday consumer, like, you and I, is really our credit card payments. Interest on our credit cards go down. So there's some benefits to it. More than anything else, the disadvantage or the non-benefit is that it's really like putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, on a huge cut. So it's like somebody slicing somebody's chest open and then just taking a nice little Band-Aid and sticking it on it and said, that'll work for a minute. Yeah, for a minute, maybe not even a minute, maybe a few seconds. But what are we going to do when the blood pours out and that Band-Aid no longer works? We're going to put another one, maybe put two, or are we going to ever stop, fix it, sew it up, close it so we don't have to deal with it anymore? Yeah, but I digress. That's for another video. All right, but I appreciate, you know what? I do want to address one other thing as far as about that. Just the inflation concern part of it. A rate cut most definitely can lead to higher inflation over time. Okay. The cost of goods and services may increase. So don't be shocked if that happens. You also can see a reduction in purchasing power depending on what type of business you're in. Okay. So, yeah, it sounds good today, but do not be shocked, especially based off the misinformation that's been coming out of that White House, if you actually hear of inflation getting worse. So, stock up, put you some money to the side, stock up on your supplies, make sure that you're prepared in the event that something goes off the rails, because this is the most heated, divisive presidential election, I believe, in the history of the United States ever. I mean, if there was another one that's heavily contested, you probably have to take it back to the Civil War, where they were literally going out on the front yard and just blasting each other to see whose side was going to take dominance and lead the country. Luckily for us, the Republicans came through. Abe Lincoln, we won, the Union won, and our country, the greatest democracy ever in the world, ever created, is able to continue on. But in order for us to protect that democracy, we have to make sure that we put people in that do see America first. When folks in our Congress are wearing other countries' flags and flying them, how can we vote for that? And honestly believe they're fighting on the best interest for you and I, for our families. So again, I hope you enjoyed this. Like the video. If you did, share it. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscription bell. Other than that, I'm Brian Maxwell, and I look forward to seeing you at the top and on the next video. Over and out.